Greetings, Marvelers and Marvelettes. It's your host, Napalm Dawn. Today we're taking a look at the preview version of the next Marvel Avengers Alliance Redux. So I'm going to go through the extraction process so you see exactly what you would be doing if you were to download it when it goes live. And you get to see all the good stuff because people always ask, how do you extract this and what happens? So I always keep two previous builds on my machine, and it's kind of ironic that right now my background is this old Marvel Avengers Alliance wallpaper somebody did a long time ago. And you can tell it's definitely old because the villains are pretty standard and the heroes are pretty standard over there. I think that's pretty much release heroes, with maybe only Deadpool being the additional hero down there from Season 1. So, alright. The Alpha 3 preview is the oldest version on my machine, so I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that. Currently, the file name for the preview version here is avengersalliance.app.zip. So we're going to go ahead and extract this right into the directory I have created for Marvel Avengers Alliance Redux called MAA. So this one does seem to be a zip version, whereas the last one some people had some issues with it being an RAR. And if you happen to have an older version of RAR in your machine, it was not compatible. Me, of course, my versions of RAR date back to my old Juarez days where pirating WinRAR was just a thing that you did, and pirating full versions of WinZip was a thing that you did. So I went ahead and went to the WinRAR Labs website and updated. I think it's like RAR Labs or something. But anyway, this one is back to being a zip. Supposedly this one has several new features in it. And as you can see, since I'm extracting it right now, I have not played it yet, so everything will be new and fresh as I go through it. I must say this is a little bit of a long extraction, but that is because it's all of the ping and or the PNG and Shockwave Flash files, all the XML files. Now I do have to plug that there are several groups on the project that could really use some help. The portrait art team needs some people who are good with portrait art. Also, some sprite people are needed. The writing team and ideas and characters, they're doing really, really well right now. They're putting out some bang-up work, but a lot of the graphics areas need some help. And this is... I don't want to say that I was right on this one, because this is one that is painful to be right on, but I kind of knew art was going to be the toughest thing over here. I've always imagined that actual sprite animators would be one of the hardest things to find for this, and one of the most in-demand roles in this whole project over here. A lot of us can write. I've had several ideas for some spec ops and everything, and I've pitched a couple. This one that I'm going to talk about here, by the way, if you get this Windows protected your PC, just hit more info and hit run anyway. You're not going to get a virus from this. One of the ones that I wish I could flush out, I need to wrap my head around it, is I was thinking of a vampire-related spec ops where Union Jack calls the team to London, that London is going through a period that they've never gone through before called a blood moon, and basically all of the vampiric related heroes that the game has ever had, like Spitfire and Vamp Jubilee, or I shouldn't say the game, but Marvel has ever had, essentially they were getting called back to London for this event to try and help Londoners out, because essentially, stock vampires were running around in the street, the typical vampire minions when we had the Dracula spec ops. But when the slightly vampiric heroes get there, like Spitfire, like Jubilee and everything like that, Blade, Morbius, they get overtaken by this blood moon, and they essentially become bosses throughout the different Spec Ops chapters, and you have to quote unquote kill them, or you have to fight them to get them back on your team. And then I was trying to think of who the reward hero would be. I knew the team definitely had plans for Jubilee, so I didn't want to do Jubilee's vampire version, and was kind of on the hunt for some other good vampiric related heroes that we don't currently have in the game, and that's where my research was on it. So it was a good idea. It was really in my head one day, and I got some of it down, and then I lost a lot of it. And when I tried to think of it again, I was like, damn, I've kind of forgotten a good chunk of this. So let's go ahead and play around. One of the first things you will see is no longer is everything 99999, and we are now Agent Ken, and the window has an icon. That was actually quite a big victory. We cannot go ahead and visit the friends yet, but you can hit collect all, and you'll notice the silver has gone up. Oh, wow. Oh dear. Alright, so I'm cheating a little bit. Okay, so I've collected all about 10 times now or so. I'm sure that is not going to make it to the live version, but that's pretty cool. So I've just given myself some monetary gains over here. Research, you can still see the research screen has got its framework. It hasn't been flushed out yet, but this is of course very big. If we go to the store, we have a agent suit, and again the framework is here, which is really solid. A lot of this can be filled in. If we go to team, we'll still see the same heroes that we saw last time, where flipping over to the back end of it goes over to Songbird, and it looks like we have some functionality over here this time. And again, I want to highlight the Death Locket bug. Hopefully the Marvel Avengers Alliance Redux team can do something that Playdom never did and fucking fix the Death Locket bug. Again, I'll point it out. Death Locket in the thumbnail has the cybernetic arm on her left, and she actually looks like she's approaching early to middle teenagedom over here with that look. But on the animated sprite, the cybernetic side is on her right, and she looks like a 9-year-old with that cybernetic side to her. There's Twig's Blue Marvel. God, the only person who truly liked Blue Marvel. I know, I'm sure there's people out there who did. I just always thought Blue Marvel sucked, and I don't really even like them in Marvel Future Fight that much. There's our boys and girls, Cloak and Dagger, which is now in its second season on Freeform. Happened to read a little bit of a negative review of the second season, that it's hitting a little bit of a sophomore slump, and the character development they did in the first season was kind of put aside for an actual villain in second season. I'm still going to watch it anyway. I like the show, and really want to catch up on the Runaways. Right now, I'm catching up on the second season of Gifted. So, as we can see here, the heroes are here. There's Miss Controversy herself, Miss Marvel. Now, this was always, actually, this was my favorite uniform for her visually, even though there were others that were a bit stronger in the game. That was always my favorite Miss Marvel look, was with the Psylocke sash and the lightning strike. But here, of course, she's called Miss Marvel, but her bio is tiny as hell. I would imagine that might get fleshed out a little bit. There is everybody's favorite pilot, Spider-Woman. Let's go to our other favorite deck pilot or deck jockey, Vanilla Luke Cage. But now remember, though, this is the code base that the game existed with in September 2016. So when the month the game went under, that is the framework for Marvel Avengers Alliance Redux. So if you are a WoW player, you have the exact opposite going on in World of Warcraft, where you have this classic server that's going to be starting, that is running vanilla code right around the time TBC popped up. This code is literally the code where the game died. So there, whoops, I may have locked up. Yeah, none of my buttons are clickable. Okay. This is the version of the game that existed when it died. So things like the stamina nerf are in effect, the heroic gauge Iron Fist nerf are in effect, Molly has been nerfed due to the stamina nerf, Cloak and Dagger is technically there, the Worthy is there now. They will not be there when the game goes live, and comes out of its alpha and beta forms and everything. But if you notice, this is a big thing here that Goofy's worked on. There's progression. So all those clicks that I did before are still here. I still have my silver, my gold, my command points, and my shield points. So let's go ahead and hit mission, and finally we don't have duplication on the screens here. Season 1, 2, and 3 tabs are not clickable. We have to go and do, well, we can pick any one of these, but, you know, I'll pretend like this is the live game, and I'll start on the Mount of Hydra one. We can see we've got some good splash art going here, and all of the fights are not available. It's just the one, so that's good. Now, people always come and they see this, and they're like, are we going to get the game the way it was? Like, how do we get the game back? Blah, blah, blah. Couple things. First of all, this will not be online. This is a downloadable game, similar to if you're an old bee like me, you downloaded the Doom demo or a Quake demo or the Descent demo. This will always be hosted on a server, and then you will download it, and that's how you will keep it up to date when it's patched. There is no live patching. This isn't a live service. It does not have a dedicated server out there on the web. It's all hosted on hosting sites like Mega and everything like that. When you need a new version, if there is one, you go out to Mega and you download it again. Whether Goofy always serves up full versions or if he serves up just patches when they get released, that'll be up to Goofy. But standard dev work usually is minor fixes go as small patches, and then big releases are the whole file all over again. My guess is a common cycle there might be something like every 5 patch iterations of the game, he might repackage it as a big download. So let's say you have version 1, and then 1.02, 03, 04, maybe 1.05 might be a full download again. Or he may just put small patches out there and always keep the main download up to date. So say you downloaded at version 1.0 and some time goes by and there's now version 1.04 out there. You may download a couple patches or maybe just re-download the game and it is version 1.04. That, of course, would be great. I always like it when people serve up the updated game on a whole. So let's do Red Hulk. I saw Rescue there. We all know Rescue is vanilla shit, but I've never picked her in one of these videos. So I'll do it, and in honor of the Vampire Spec Ops I would like to write in my head, there's Union Jack. Difficulties medium. Oh, that music. Do you hear that music, people? Are you getting the nostalgia chills over there? Volume's pretty good, but I'm going to lower it a little bit. So many people, like, we had no idea this game would die, and how many of us spent the last several years of playing this game with the music off and the sound off. I definitely killed the music at some point. I usually had the sound up, but playing it in Chrome and Firefox, the volume was just so jacked up, and the game needed a volume slider in the game itself because it was louder than most of the other stuff in Chrome and Firefox, like YouTube and other Flash things. So I didn't want to constantly go to my volume mixer and lower Chrome just because Avengers Alliance was fucking blaring. So anyway, well, I bulwarked, but I didn't protect, so we're still having a little bit of status issues. We're just going to attack with Rescue. We may as well, because I don't really know if she's going to... Ooh, 19 damage. Oh, it's so bad. So you can see here the mobs are tuned to where they would be on the base game. However, the characters are not tuned properly because we don't have ISOs. And that is the intent. It is expected for you to have stat ISOs and not be facing everybody, you know, just with vanilla tunes. Shield. Oh, there we go. Took a moment. Oh, I miss Union Jack. Union Jack was one of the people who I always thought was animated well. His sound was always good. I wish Union Jack could have been used a bit more than he honestly was. I liked making teams with Union Jack. He was... I don't want to say he was unique because we did have people like Star-Lord and Rocket Raccoon and others who joined in on attacks, but I always thought Union Jack was kind of like the OG of the attack joiners, and I liked building teams with him. I liked building teams with Hogun, honestly. Hogun was always a lot of fun to try and make teams with, and I think one of the ones I did as the game was aging, I mean, we didn't know it was going to die quite at that point, but Hogun and Spitfire I really liked, and I call it Team Spitgun, because Ho-Fire really doesn't sound very appealing. Ho-Fire sounds like a stripper on a Tuesday afternoon at the men's club. Dudes, put your hands together for the 12 o'clock act. It's Ho-Fire. That doesn't work. So it remains to be seen if Poor Rescue and Red Hulk can actually kill 75 hit points over here. Maybe not. Two. Did you see that? Red Hulk in those big fiery gamma massive fists over there did 2 damage. Let's try and put it away with a stomp. So yay, we only lost Union Jack, but progress. Hey, uh-oh. Everything showed up over there. Now we're back to... I wonder what'll happen. So if I go to the flight deck... Okay, no, wait. Now everything's back to normal up top. Interesting. Ah, it did reset. I thought there was a resume button here somewhere, but... Let's go for the agent, and we'll see what gear is here. Omega Sentinel's just going to be too weak on damage. I want to find, like, real raw... X-23. That should be decent. Not that Black Cat's going to do a lot of damage in this, but we could consider this a bleed team. There's our Bashenga Blade. Let's see how the animation is. Still disconnected from the hand. Oh, Black Cat doing 7 damage. God, how painful is that to watch? Now, X-23, on the other hand, that was pretty good. No damage off of the needle gun. Black Cat with a pretty big strike. Katana did some decent damage. Pretty good crit there. Nerve Chop. So... how many of you people remember when Knight America came out, when he first came out and he enabled people to do quick actions, ad infinitum, so you could just, pour 1 damage on that gun. So you could sit here and you could do stroke of luck, stroke of luck, stroke of luck. You could do stroke of luck literally as long as you wanted, and then do nerve chop, and you could probably kill a group boss in 1 hit. That was fixed pretty quickly, as that was really, really overpowered, but it existed for quite some time, and that was one of those ones that was secretly going around the community, and I remember touching on it on one of my streams, and we laughed like giddy little schoolgirls as we saw what we could do with Knight America and Black Cat. It really amazed me So this will be an interesting thing about Marvel Avengers Alliance Redux compared to MAA when it was live. The bug squashing routine. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see how well the MAAR dev team works with killing bugs as quickly as they're discovered. Because we all know when Playdom had control of it, there were some that just never got fixed. Here's one of the ones that annoyed me the most, and it's a little awkward to explain. Oh, hey, good shot from Pym there. Pym and the agent doing some damage on this fight. So one of the bugs that existed way too long in the game and was never ever fixed, and even though I reported it several times, is the no passives before actions bug. Let me give you an example. Combat starts, and let's say your team had a buff that puts a member of the team stealthed on spawn of combat. Until an action was taken, a lot of passives didn't actually engage. And there were definitely times where, as a tactician, if I attacked a blaster, I didn't get the extra turn because the tactician bonus, for some reason, didn't engage. And I've seen that where invisible people, so if like Psylocke and Phantom X were on my team, and they were the X-Force suits, and Psylocke was supposed to make herself invisible, and she goes and hits somebody, the invisibility technically hadn't loaded yet, and her first attack may have gotten blocked because she's not invisible. That was a bug that existed for a long, long time in Marvel Avengers Alliance, and one that they never fixed. And I hated it because there were certain things that you wanted to do right in the very beginning of combat, but if you hadn't taken an action, buffs didn't appear yet. So like the Captain America suit that starts him off with the taunt so that he's tanking. It's possible like a Quicksilver... Well, Quicksilver was stealthy. But let's say it was like Loki. Loki turn jumped on the other team and he acted first. He might do his level 1 and hit a member of my team that wasn't Captain America because the passive of him tanking hadn't loaded yet. And that's a bug that I would love to see fixed. I can't imagine that would be an easy one for Goofy because it sounds honestly very hard to dig that one up. The only way that I can imagine it working is if behind the scenes he coded a blank action to happen. So we spawn in, here's Agent Hank Pym, Captain Britain. Say my agent has a passive that on the spawn of the combat he taunts and he's tanking. Maybe what Goofy could do is like write an invisible action that in the beginning of combat there's always a blank action that happens in the background, a null action, and then that null action is considered the first thing of combat, so then all the passives kick in. I don't know. I don't know if we'll see that bug. I don't know if it's particularly easy to squash. 6 damage to Viper. So, not Old Man Logan, just regular Logan, the Wolverine that took place in Japan. I really wasn't that thrilled with the representation of Viper in that movie. Mostly because I was disappointed to see the blonde. I fully expected the green hair. Now, her actions in that movie I still think were pretty good. And I thought they were fitting of the Viper that we knew, despite the fact that she never really got into gunplay. But that was a movie that sometimes isn't very well liked, and I liked it a lot. One of the only Wolverine movies that I didn't like was Origins. I mean, it was okay the first few times that I watched it, but I got over it really quickly. But just Logan out in Japan with you know, everything that happened in that movie, I thought it was a good movie. I like it. Whenever it comes on TV, I usually wind up watching it, and it's actually been on a few times lately. So, we want to go to team, we want to go to the agent because we want to see what gear we have. My guess is the gear is not really changed, but there's a needle gun, katana, spirit 76, Bashenga. I would highly recommend you take the guns out and replace them because they didn't seem to be doing a good amount of damage. Gadgets aren't working yet, at least the last time I checked, so I wouldn't bother with them because effects need to be worked on, but the blinking is stopped over here, which is great. Is that the wave cannon? Yeah, the wave nullifier. I remember that gun, and there's a couple others that look like it. We'll take out the needle gun, and, man, it kind of reminds me of the gun. There's the cube. I won't worry about that one. There is the hardened Wakandan Rungu, I believe. No, oh, the enchanted crowbar. Wow. I'm going to just take myself out back and shoot me for that one. I totally didn't recognize that in that thumbnail. I thought it was the Rungu, which, by the way, shows up in Black Panther. M'Baku uses that as his weapon, and I was just sitting there in the theater where I was watching it with my girlfriend and her friend, and I saw it on the screen. I was like the only one that was excited to see it, and it didn't make sense to anybody. I was like, it's the hard one, Wakanda Rungu, yay! Just nerd moment over there, I guess. Vibrashodal. Oh, Crescent Flare. Wow! I'm just gonna shut up right now. I'm not really guessing on these particularly well. So this is the exploiter. The reason why this here is because Goofy's heard me say it many, 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 many times that I was a Facebook beta player when Justin Woods came on XPlay and he talked about this game, and that's where you could get a beta code for it. And I will always remember because I shared this with a friend of mine, Jimmy, and I was telling him about this Marvel Avengers Alliance game that's going to be coming out on Facebook and everything, because Woods, at the time that he was being interviewed by Adam Sessler about this game, he's like, I want to make a Facebook game as big of an opus, as magnificent as Final Fantasy VII. And my friend Jimmy just laughed his ass off at that. He's like, yeah, okay, right. Oh, wait a minute, there's 2 scrappers and no blaster. Alright, that's got to get fixed. It should be probably Generalist, Blaster, Bruiser, Infiltrator, Scrapper, Tactician. But I think the original order, though, was alphabetical. Was it alphabetical? Could be. To me, I favored Tacticians so heavily. In my brain, I had Tacticians higher, and I had Infiltrators lower. Like I would think it was Blaster, Bruiser, Tactician, Scrapper, Infiltrator, and then maybe Generalist over on the edge. I kind of forget, but yeah, I think this one over here, the left one, needs to be a Blaster. But yeah, so that X-Ray Exploiter was the gadget. It was a free gift that you got if you were a beta player, and I honestly think I have maybe heard of one other person who ever had this. It didn't have that much use in the game because it had a 4-round cooldown, but it was good later on in the Hugin's Eye meta, because this thing put up the debuff that allowed you to hit people with heavy dodge. And the name is escaping me right now. I believe it's not Dizzy, but it's one of the pressure point related ones. Not Dizzy. Whichever is the one that basically negated the Hugin's Eye passive. I really wanted to use the exploiter so I can hit people again, because you remember dodge was off the charts for like 2 seasons there because of the Hugin's Eye. And then of course all those tanking passives that even if you missed the person with the Hugin's Eye, you still got drained and everything. The exploiter fixed that, but the cooldown was way too big, so I didn't like it. I was using the hard Wakandan Rungu for a little while because even if it missed, I still believed it caused the actual debuff, and then you could start hitting that person again. Melee was Melee had it really, really tough there for a little while, um, because of all those dodge passives. There's Herc. Some people liked Herc. Herc was a tough level. Herc sometimes was weak at the lower levels, then he got better. One of the worst leveling characters, and I believe I have not seen him. There he is. Wonder Man. Man, maybe Wonder Man got good when he got ISOs and he got his flavor ISOs later on, but God, leveling Wonder Man out of the flight deck was so awful. He just hit like an absolute pussy for so long. But he was a decent tank. Rescue, that was another painful leveling one. Always had some secret love for Thundra. Always wanted to make good teams with her. And when she finally got her ISOs near the end of the game, I think she got a lot better. I did team Thunderlord with her and Star-Lord because of the rising up that she had, and it was fun. It didn't always work because Melee was not. That was right around the time Melee was not working well, but I think the reason why we've never seen her in any other games is she's been tied up to the Fantastic Four universe, and of course that was one that Marvel didn't have, but hopefully Thunder will get some love. I don't know if she's ever had another uniform. I'd like to see her maybe get an alternate suit. Our boy Damien, who turned into Angrier, always liked Satana a lot. Elektra with the early PvP ownage that she did with the bleeds. I used Ares in PvP with Sabretooth for a little while. He was rough. When Ares was popular in PvP, that was painful. Always loved Spiral. I hopped right on the Spiral bandwagon right when she came out. Dr. Voodoo, spent some time using him in PvP. Did Thane with Flanked so that he double stacks his Sealing Touch over here. A good way to accelerate that. Used Sabretooth for a while. Domino always hit like a feather, but she had good debuffs. Remember trying to figure out what spells from Nico you cast? That'd be an interesting thing if they could code it in that you find some kind of a counter on her spells over here so you know what you've cast and you don't accidentally fizzle fry a spell already. Iceman was better as Death. The Warriors 3 was always solid, but God, remember the Volstagg Fandral meta for a little while, especially when the agent running the tankard? That was a rough one. Always hated fighting Falcon in PvP. I always liked this Gamora look way better than her movie look. I always thought this was pretty cool. Anti-Venom, of course. Loved Anti-Venom for a long time. He was a monster with Beast. Shayna. I ran into something when I was doing research on the Vampire Spec Ops. Shayna could have shown up there as a good heroic battle against somebody. I think there was somebody that she was like 6 degrees of separated from some of the vampires I wanted to work with. There's Tampon Man. Not movie Star-Lord. This Star-Lord was good in his own right, but of course... no, this is movie Star-Lord. My bad. Bellhop Star-Lord was the one that was most used. This was always interesting. So you have non-movie Gamora, and you have non-movie Drax, and you had non-movie Rocket, and you had non-movie Groot. And Star-Lord, when he was released, he was the first one that wear the movie skins, and then his alternate was what I like to call the bellhop uniform. Blade, of course, big with Spitfire there when he had those bugged ISOs. Always really liked Gorgon. Wish I could have done more with Gorgon. He was interesting as he was one of the people who did AoE if he did a counter or he did follow-up. And I always thought that was pretty cool, and I built teams around that. Of course, Hybrid, good to see him again. Nova. And then we have Adult Nova later on. Marvel Heroes treated the two Novas as one character. They were just alternate uniforms. But here in Marvel Avengers Alliance, and I had forgotten about that until I got a hold of one of the alphas, but um, Adult Nova is his own character in this. Did I miss him? I thought I remembered. I think I'm smoking crack. I could swear there was an adult version of Nova, aka Richard Rider. Maybe he's just he just might be one of the ones that's not in the game here, but there's God, I can't wait to get a hold of Spitfire again. She was just so much fun. And I'd been talking with the art team a little bit of like if there's a way of bringing Firestar in the game that doesn't have a uniform that looks so much like Spitfire. Now, Spitfire's colors are going to be very, very different than Firestar, and Firestar never had the gloves get some space off of the arms, but the mask and everything looks a lot like Firestar. So I would love to see Firestar in the game. That was always one of my secret wishes, and honestly, Flag Smasher. But Flag Smasher did show up. I was really, really thrilled when he showed up in the game, because growing up, I saw Flag Smasher in a book, a Marvel tabletop game book, and I thought he looked like Space Ghost. And as a kid, something that looks like Space Ghost, you're like, yay, Space Ghost. So there you go, guys. Here is a preview of the next alpha that is coming out. It is probably coming out around April 1st or later, and no, it is not going to be an April Fool's. But as you can see, you can finally get some progression as you are going through the missions. And when you close the game and you come back, you will be back to where you were in terms of some of the overall aesthetics of it. Now, when we go to the flight deck, we seem to have updated code, but when we go to the missions, it seems like it's back to the early alpha code where everything's 99999 and you're Johnny and you're level 99, 999 instead of 1. But hey, that's why we have these preview builds, is we break the game and then we go tell Goofy and then he fixes it. So peace out, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the video, and happy Friday to any of you guys watching this on release day. And it'll be March 29th, so just give it a few more days and you guys will be able to play a version of this game similar to what you're seeing on the screen right now. Take care, everybody. Take care, everybody.